Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we will be talking about the apocalyptic horror film A Quiet Place, Day 1, directed by Michael Sarnoski and released June 28th, 2024. That's right. The newest installment of the Quiet Place franchise, although it is kind of a prequel. It is a prequel to the story we really follow in the other two. I think A Quiet Place 2 did have some, Day 1, prequel, scenes or shots, but with where the Abbotts were, and they're kind of smaller town. Here we're seeing New York City. Whole, different setting, different people, different vibes.
Yeah, the cool thing is John Krasinski, when he was doing A Quiet Place 2 and doing those early scenes showing what happened, where the family lived, where the Abbotts were, that gave him the idea of doing this bigger prequel for the franchise. Although he didn't direct it or write it,
yeah,
he did have influence in it because he was on set. Yeah, he was definitely connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing because I love his point of view. And if he injected any of that into this, I think it was pretty evident, actually. He did have a little handle on a few things, I think.
That's good.
Yeah. It's cool also, the director, he did this film with Nicolas Cage called Pig.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Krasinski saw that movie, he really, really wanted to have Sarnoski do this one because he appreciated what he did in that film. And I haven't seen Pig, so I don't know.
I have to check it out.
Yeah. So I'm interested in, what your thoughts are on this one, because it just came out when we're recording this, it's 6 weeks ago that it came out. Yeah. I remember being super excited, and then all of a sudden it was time for it to be out, so it was so cool. Getting back to those crazy creatures and the lack of sound, because it's exciting to watch a story that unfolds without as much sound. Because when you do get sound, it's more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
There were different times in this movie that I was just like, oh, wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. So, we've still got production notes and synopsis and stuff we'll get to, but before we get to all of the really great things that I love about this movie, and there's a lot of fun stuff that I want to talk about, I'm going to get the negativity out of the way first. I feel like that's a good way to do it. So I'll give the bad side first, and then we'll go into everything and talk about all the really fun stuff. But where I sit overall, this movie is good. It's fine. It is not bad in any way. However, it's not as good as the first two Quiet Place movies, to me. I don't think. And even with the new characters and the urban setting, I was trying to put my finger on what is it that's just not clicking about this movie. And I think it doesn't give us anything new.
Mm-hmm.
Plot-wise. It's a point A to point B survival story, but there's no new revelations or understandings of these creatures. There is a unique character element to this. I will say that Sarnoski definitely, I'm assuming probably what Krasinski picked up on was his ability to write really subtle and great character connection moments. Again, I haven't seen Pig, so I'm not sure, but if I'm going to pinpoint something that this movie excelled at, I think that's definitely it. So there is this unique character element as far as taking something so generic as I want pizza and making that the through line for the whole movie and making it make sense and actually we care about it. That's good writing. That's really good. So I'm not going to like hold that against. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie because it's not. But like, I don't know. It's just still not as special as it could have been. I don't know, because it is a great idea plot-wise. Like this idea of holding on and memories and sacrifices. All of that is really great. But I don't know. There was something that felt lacking and I couldn't really put my finger on it. And then I was like, are we just missing some kind of magical Krasinski touch? Since he really...
Maybe.
Was it? Like, I don't know. It's like what we're used to. Is like, is it just hard for us to shift from the Abbotts that we're so endeared to? And
Maybe.
do something like, I don't know. Yeah. But then I'm thinking back to one that I really thought of that we did cover was Bird Box Barcelona.
Yeah.
Where I felt like they actually managed to pull off this same world, different setting and characters concept better. Because they had new, unique ideas to the world they were in. That could really expand and open up the way you thought about this universe that had been built. And this movie didn't really do that. That all said, this is probably the only negativity that I have on the movie, because overall it was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I will watch it again, I'm sure. It's probably at some point like a trilogy kind of thing. But yeah, I had to admit, like off the top, before we really get into the good stuff, like let's get this out of the way, just like, I just don't think it's on the level of the standard that this franchise had set before it, for whatever reason. I'm not sure. But hopefully, and I think theater sales and I think critics and Rotten Tomatoes, I think all of that matches up with my opinion. But I still did enjoy this movie a lot, and I hope that it was worth it, and then the people behind it feel good because they did accomplish something really good. And then I don't know if this means that they're going to do any more. I mean, I know there is another Quiet Place sequel coming. I do know that's... But as far as if they're going to play with any more of this world or try to, expand the world outside of the Abbotts and stuff anymore, if this determines whether they do or don't do that, I hope it doesn't deter them from doing things, because I do enjoy what Sarnoski brought to this, so...
Yeah. I have to agree with you, though, about the not learning something new. Because we really didn't get that. I mean, it was this, like you said, a point A to point B survival story, which is fine. But we really didn't learn anything new about the creatures.
Yeah, because I think that's why I loved A Quiet Place Part 2 so much, is because it was a continuation of these characters that we had really kind of fallen in love with and were endeared to and wanted to see how they were doing. But then it threw in these wrenches of like, oh, also the creatures do this, and also there's this element, and there's this other human element that you didn't expect coming, and ooh, but also they can do this to fight back. And there was so much world building.
Yeah, and this didn't really do that. I mean, we got subtle reminders of what the creatures could and couldn't do. We got the connection with Henry's character because he was also in A Quiet Place too. We got those subtle connections, but outside of that, I think standalone, it was better as standalone than looking at it as part of that universe.
Yeah, right. And just as somebody who covered the other two movies, as a podcaster and somebody who literally watched this movie through an analytic mind on purpose so we can do this and have this conversation, you can't do that. You can't let it stand alone. So,
you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So, yeah, I think we're in for a really good discussion. I have a lot of gushing about one particular thing that I will probably have to edit a lot out of, edit a lot out of this podcast. But there are some things, there's a couple of things that I think I'm going to end up gushing about.
Cool. Yeah, and I did enjoy this movie a lot more on second watch at home as well.
Yeah.
Kind of revisiting things and picking up on things I might have missed the first time. The theater watch was okay. I'll blame a group of annoying ass kids for that one.
Yes, you told me about that.
I call them annoying kids. They were in their early 20s. I'm officially old and I'm that person now. But you know what? It is what it is.
Pake, you are 2 steps from shaking a stick and yelling at kids on your lawn.
I know.
That's what's coming next.
Just going to have to embrace it at some point. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't change. It continues to happen. So you'll have to embrace it.
Yep. It just, all I know is if I ever start, like, unironically using the term whippersnappers, just shoot me.
No.
It's over for me. There's no hope at that point. I don't need to go on.
I might pull you aside and talk to you like that guy on the commercials about young homeowners or young people turning into their parents. I will pull you aside or pull you away. There was one instance that we were together that I should have done that, and I didn't. I just let you go full bore with it, and maybe I should have done something to stop it, but I didn't. Anyway. So, production notes was filmed in London, England, and a few things were shot in New York City, particularly Patsy's Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spin-off prequel, which we talked about. It's the third installment in Krasinski's Quiet Place film series. The budget was $67 million, and it grossed $258.8 million, which is still really good.
Pretty good. Yeah. 99
minutes long. Pake, bring us that synopsis that you found somewhere on the internet.
Mm-hmm. A young woman named Sam finds herself trapped in New York City during the early stages of an invasion by alien creatures with ultra-sensitive hearing.
Yes.
So vague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think we question who the main character is in this story.
No,
it is not. Sam.
Frodo.
Samira. Yes, Frodo! Don't get me started on Frodo. We have not even talked about Sam, and I'm ready to talk about Frodo.
Man, I have a connection between names in my notes of Sam and Eric. But I didn't even think about Sam and Frodo.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
Come on.
Until we just said it at the same time, the two names, and I was like, oh, God, that was on purpose for sure, too.
Yeah, don't get me started on Frodo because I'm just going to go down a path. So
he gets his own character section in the notes. So
oh, my God. Good. I love that cat. I just want to say, I love that cat. And I have to say, before we even get started, Lupita Nyong'o was terrified of cats. She went through a process to be comfortable with cats. It took a while for her to get to that point. But at the end of the day, when all was said and done, she adopted a cat.
Aww.
She did. And his name is Yo-Yo. The cat is an orange tabby and so adorable and is all over her Instagram.
I love that.
It just made me so happy because she really was, she was very terrified of them. She was very suspicious of them, she said. But she really wanted to play this role so bad, so she faced her fear. And they hired someone to bring cats to her in Los Angeles. And over a number of days, she looked at the cats, she watched the cats, she asked questions. She touched them when she felt like she was brave enough to. And then she was petting one, and then finally she could hold one without freaking out. And she became a cat lover.
That's great.
And that just, how Lupita Nyong'o is a fantastic actress. There's a million reasons to love her. This is just another reason.
Yeah.
She's just fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll talk about Sam, and the first note. The wonderful, beautifully fantastic Lupita Nyong'o, who cannot and will not ever do any wrong.
No, she won't.
Is my first note for
Love her. I just keep hoping
it is well established on this podcast now. The crush I have on Lupita Nyong'o. She's definitely, I love her very much. So
she's so beautiful. She's so talented. I hope that she continues to do movies that fit within our genre because I want to continue.
This is number 3, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I want to be able to continue to talk about her.
Yes.
And how amazing she is. And this movie, as far as her performance, I didn't think anything was lacking whatsoever. I thought her facial acting, physical acting, her body language was fantastic. And one thing I uncovered when I did a little bit of research is she voluntarily lost a little bit of weight because she wanted to create the vulnerability that comes along with being someone who has a terminal illness.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted it to be authentic. And so she did that. And she had never done it for a role before, but she really wanted to play Sam. So she went all in.
Yeah. And Sam is this, younger person who has a terminal illness, cancer or something of the sort. And she's in a hospice. It's gotten to that point. Like, we know her apartment is still nearby with all her stuff in it, but like, she's at that place where it's like, she's got to be in hospice care because she needs constant medication or nurses or people who can be there at any second. It's advanced stages. She's not well. But she's still so young, and she's just in this place with all these older people around her, and you can just tell that it's hard on her, and it's frustrating her. I mean, she's got Ruben there to shoot the shit with, and, at least it's kind of another younger person to work with, which Alex Wolff was just, the little bit that he was in this movie was so endearing himself. So it's like, again, I got all the negativity off the top because, like, a lot of that's just, I don't know, concept, the way it was, executed, or I don't even want to say some of the writing. Again, I'm not quite sure what it was. But yeah, the acting and the casting, I can't, no demerits for any of that. It was all incredible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. Though, I thought that Alex Wolff looked different in this, like older than he is.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went and Googled him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks so older. But the last time I saw him in something, it was Hereditary.
Uh-huh.
Because he played
I get
the
him
son.
and his brother mixed up still so often that I'm like,
I think,
which one's which?
I better look it up to make sure.
I never even, watched their show on, Nickelodeon or whatever. I was kind of past that point. But, so really, I knew who they were. I was aware of the Naked Brothers band and, the things that they did as kids.
Yeah.
But, I never watched it, and it wasn't really anything. So, my introduction to them as actors wasn't through Nickelodeon. It was as they were older teenagers and young adults, and then watching them in roles that I've always been highly impressed with their acting, but I still can't tell them apart sometimes.
Yeah, it seems it is hard to tell them apart. And I think that Nat Wolff, though, his brother, has a more menacing look about him in some of his roles.
Yeah.
Because I just remember him as Lloyd in The Stand, and
yeah.
There's just this look, and I feel like Alex just has more of a, he could be a sweet guy look. But he looked older, I felt like. Yeah. I didn't recognize him at first, because I looked and thought, it looks like him, but it can't be him, because he looks like he's in his 30s in this role, and he's only, 25 or 26. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get that much of Ruben.
No, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, but here at least when we see him in the hospice, is he's a nurse there, and he's got this kind of camaraderie with Sam. I mean, obviously, kind of her angry cynicism he kind of appreciates. He's like, there's something about somebody who's not afraid to just be open and vocal about this really sucks. Fuck this shit. He gets that. He's like, there's something endearing between them. And I do love her dark humor, because it's an extremely valid way of dealing with grief and mortality. I haven't talked about this on this podcast yet at all. This has been very private, but I mean, right now my dad is dealing with cancer and treatment and going through that, and he's very funny about it. It's serious, and we have our serious conversations, but also the dark humor, it's a way to cope, and he's very much in that place too sometimes. So I get it, and I appreciate it, and so I like seeing that from her as well. This, all right, in 30 minutes we're leaving for a show. Do you want to come? Well, yeah, but I might be dead by then.
I know. She had this way of looking at it, and I think people forget or don't realize that someone who's going through a terminal illness are dealing with their own grief of themselves. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's really difficult when you're dealing with your own mortality. It just changes everything. the way that you look at things. And she's found a way to balance all of it and is still showing a sense of humor and, her poem about being in hospice and it being shit and talking shit, like shit is every other word in her poem about the hospice. And it just shows that she's still got that little bit of sense of humor left in her.
Yeah.
Despite everything that she's been facing. Later on in the movie, they talk about, 1 to 2 years or 5 to 6 months. And this is and now it's 6 months. So she's been planning for her own impending death. Like she knows it's coming. She knows she doesn't have a lot longer. She thought she'd already been to the city for the last time.
Yeah, I really liked that line, that interaction. And again, it showed, even though that I'm jumping ahead just a bit, but when she says to Ruben outside the theater, "You're not my friend, you're a nurse," it hurts that much deeper. And again, she doesn't mean it, but it's just that she's rightly angry in that moment. She was promised pizza in the city, and in her place, mentally, emotionally, physically, those little things are extremely important. And again, because it's that last moment, like, you told me this, and now you're denying me that, when you know that this could be my last chance for this. Those things matter. And so that's what gets her to go, was that interaction where, she goes, "When was the last time you were in the city?" "Last time was supposed to be the last time." And his response was, "Well, here's another time." I thought that was beautiful.
It was. Their interactions together, I just felt like he really understood where she was coming from. Because working in a hospice, that the people that are there are going to die. And you're dealing with that. And I think it takes a very special person to be in that role. Because you're faced with loss and grief all the time. And for him to be working there, it just has to be gut-wrenching at times. Yeah. And so to connect with her, and he's got this special relationship with her where I feel like she brings just a little bit of humor into his life.
Yeah.
Because of the way that she's looking at things and the way that she's talking about things. Because it's just so sad. I mean, you look at her changing her, she was changing her pad, the little pads that deliver the pain medication.
Yeah.
And you can just tell, she's been doing this for a while, and, it's hurting. Like it's not working maybe as well as it used to.
Yeah. But I think that interaction, like I said, really gets her going. That, and the biggest kicker, of course, is the promise of actual New York pizza in the city.
Yes.
And then as we learn later on, as we go to learn what that means to her, that it really is something more than just pizza. But yeah, and then her looking out the bus window on the way into the city, with the giant cemetery between her and the skyline. I just remember looking at that going, well, ain't that metaphorical?
Ugh. Yeah, that really hits. Like, seeing that. And she is so driven by the little things, but like the pizza. Yeah. Like wanting the pizza. She reluctantly gets back on the bus, but you could tell she's just like, I need this, the pizza. It's the little things that matter.
That's the reason I came here.
Yeah.
And she's very mad. And she's already kind of annoyed and feeling tricked. She was taken to a marionette show. Which strangely ends up impacting her quite emotionally. That she wasn't ready for. And she opts to go for a walk and a snack instead. Which, it really was kind of a beautiful performance.
It was.
I was
it hit me, and I couldn't put my finger exactly on why, but it was beautiful. There was something about it. It was beautiful and sad at the same time.
Yeah, which is kind of this movie.
Yeah, beautiful and sad. A Quiet Place, day one. Here's your tagline: beautiful and sad. Because it is. It's beautiful, terrifying, and sad.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, but then yeah, we talk about getting back on the bus, and that's when shit hits the fan. Everything goes down. Which we could talk about that with the creatures and stuff, but really with her, you know, she whatever is experiencing it. It's just dust and bodies and people and scary things, and then, you know, she gets knocked out. Next thing, she's waking back up in that same theater with some familiar faces. You know, Henry, as you mentioned, that as a connection, we see Henry, which is Jimon Hunsu.
Yes.
The only crossover, really, from the other movies, other than, like, the creatures. Because, he's in this marionette theater with his wife and son, Xena and Oshar, which his son, Oshar, turns around and admires and pets Frodo, Sam's cat, a little bit. Which it was just cool, because I'm like, oh, wow. Like, immediately I was like, that's quite the connection there. And so when she wakes back up in the theater, Henry's the one that's there when she wakes up, and then Reuben has made it back inside. And most importantly, Frodo. The cat is there. So.
Frodo has to. I remember when I first saw the advertisements for this movie and saw that they were going to have a cat in it, all I could think is, if anything happens to the cat, I'm not going to be able to take it.
Don't worry, this wasn't Mike Flanagan. Cat was safe.
Thank God. I had to go on doesthedogdie.com to check if the cat was going to make it before I went to the movies, because I couldn't. I would have been a wreck.
Yeah, which that website, I'll throw that out there for those who need it, which most people who need it probably already know about it, but just in case. I don't use it because the thing that triggers me is spoilers. I don't want anything. But, as a joke, but no, for real, but for people who have certain, like, you know, need certain trigger warnings about anything, because it's not only does the dog die or does, like, you know, animal things, but there's a whole list of all kinds of, if you have specific phobias and things that really do bother you, you can search keywords and trigger warnings and stuff for all kinds of movies, just to give yourself an advance warning on anything you see. So it is a good, tool for certain people to use if you need to. So I'll throw that out there for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it because it's helped me a couple of times. It's easier if I expect it than if I'm worried about it. And so it just allowed me to watch the movie without worrying about Frodo, because he was too perfect.
Yeah, and then through the stuff that they deal with in this theater, I mean, the creatures, one of them gets in a little bit, and we're seeing, just them surviving, which people pick up on the no sound thing pretty quickly in this movie, which is good. But, then once things kind of settle down and it's like, all right, do we hunker down here? Are we staying? That's where Sam has that plan. She's like, I came to NYC. I came to the city for pizza. I'm getting pizza. And it takes Reuben a beat to realize she's 100% serious. Because you see, she holds up that little sign where she's written, I'm going to Harlem, I'm going to get pizza. And he laughs a little, chuckles to himself quietly. Just this little oh, that's funny. And then...
No.
Again, you talked about Lupita Nyong'o's face acting. She doesn't have to say a word for him to immediately go, oh shit, you're serious. No, you can't do that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And he tells her no and don't. It's so hard sometimes, and I can relate to this. When someone tells you no, or makes you feel like you can't do something, it drives you to do it anyway. Which is great if it's a good thing, but if it's a bad thing, not so much.
Yeah, but she's got her heart and mind set on this task, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy, but crazy seems to be the norm right now, so, why not? And then we get Reuben's death. Not too long after that. There's a few things. I have these as others notes, but I'll just cover that section now because it all kind of mostly fits in here. Is because before she leaves, we have one last kind of big shebang, I guess, here at the theater, which they see the bridges blown up and all of that, and it leads to this intense moment where Henry accidentally kills this dude just trying to shut him up, and then worrying if his son saw him do that or not. There's this his son seeing him with the guy, but then they leave it open-ended whether his son was still there for the actual, killing the guy. Which, that's what, okay, I said the negativity was over, but it's not really negativity. It's just kind of a note. It's a little disappointing only because it could have led to a really interesting, like, dynamic and arc in those characters if this was a story about them. But instead, no, we don't see them again until the end of the movie. And it's almost like I just want, you know, that's another prequel movie. Can we get Henry? Can we get the story of Henry? Can we get Jimon Hunsu and his wife? Because we see at the boat at the end, Xena, his wife, is not there. Something happened. I mean, we can surmise what happened, but like, what was the situation? What happened? You know, How did it happen? His son's still there with him. It's like, I want to see that movie, especially with this whole, like, his son, because he seemed like such a sweet father, and I'm sure he is. But in that moment, you really see him conflicted. Like, what is my son going to think of me? What would be the conversations? What would be the drama between that? That in my head, I'm like, I want to see that story. And I know I can't. I'm not seeing that story. And it's a little frustrating.
I know. I want that story too.
Yeah.
I want to know.
He's a great actor. And that kid that played his son, I don't think he was in Quiet Place 2. I don't think
he wasn't. He's only had 2 roles.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even filming timeline that wouldn't have worked because kids that age grow so fast. It would have been a different kid if his son was in that movie. I don't remember. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
But, like, that kid was adorable. And it's like, I want to see more of that, you know? Like, so, I don't know. Michael Sarnoski, listen, if you're listening, do that one. Henry and His Family. That's the prequel movie we want next.
Yeah, I think we have to send that to John Krasinski because he is still the captain of this franchise.
Absolutely. Yeah. But then, with Ruben, with the generator, which... The scene bothers me for a different reason. Not that I was like, oh, they could have done something different. No, it's perfect for the movie. But just in a hindsight thing, I'm like, yeah, shutting off the generator is a brave act. But I'm like, knowing the way that these monsters, again, it's hindsight as somebody who's watched 3 movies now. Yeah. Knowing the way that they work, I'm like, I feel like they would have just come and destroyed the generator and then left if people were quiet. Or eventually it becomes one of those sounds that they are able to ignore.
Yes.
So, like, maybe running up to the roof and shutting off the generator was actually a terrible idea. I see he was trying to do the right thing, but, like, not really something he should have even worried about doing, I don't think.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, in some of the research I did, I found out that originally it was going to be someone else that did that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what that would have meant for Ruben. Like, when would he have died?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had to die so that she wouldn't feel or be held back by him, because I think he was going to continue. He was not going to go with her. He would have made her stay, and she did not want to do that.
Yeah. So with him unfortunately gone, it's almost just like, well, now I have nothing really holding me back. So I'm headed to Harlem with nothing but a cat and a dream of pizza.
What is better than pizza? And a dream of pizza. Oh, I love pizza.
Pizza's good. I might order some pizza tonight. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I've been thinking about it the past couple days, and I get to it, and I'm like, I actually don't. I'm good. Because it's just so much.
But it's so good. And it feeds you for a couple of days.
If I had a place around here where I could just order a slice, maybe. But
yeah,
I got to get a whole pizza. That's just a lot. Especially when I have work tomorrow. Anyway. So she heads out, goes back to the store that she went into before, grabs some supplies. After carefully opening some cat food, she looks over at the water fountain to see a squirrel and a young Willem Blackwood, all the way from Westeros with his little sister.
You noticed that too.
Yeah, I did. I was like, that kid looks familiar. And then I was just like, at first, and then like I saw like in the credits, it was like Artie something. And I was like, I think the kid that plays, which is I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but House of the Dragon, the kid that plays Oscar Tully is Artie something as well. And I was like, I don't think that's the same kid, but could it be? How was the filming? And then I like looked at his credits. I was like, oh, House of the Dragon. But I was like, oh, but it wasn't. It's not Oscar Tully. It's the young Willem Blackwood in season 1. But yeah, I was like, oh, still crazy that it was still a House of the Dragon connection. Yeah. Which, somehow I feel like that kid's not going to have a happy ending in either of these worlds.
Nope. I don't know. We didn't see him on the boat.
No.
So I don't think he made it.
No,
but I
don't
do
think so.
like that she took the time to get them to someplace safe. And one thing I really appreciated was those little ways that they use things like the rain and thunder to mask the sound. Like talking under the rain. Yeah,
that was cool. And you think, smart kid for hiding out under the fountain. Like, he had figured that out, this masking sounds idea. And then it being the water fountain, I thought was a purposeful callback to the first movie with that really great Lee and Marcus scene behind the waterfall that I know we had a lot of great stuff to talk about with that one.
We did. And water, bringing that all back to they can't swim, they can't be in the water, those types of things.
Yeah.
And knowing that the water was safe and that's where they needed to go. I liked those callbacks because it was, again, another connection, but it was stuff we already knew. But it showed it in a little bit different way.
Yeah,
which I thought
the callbacks were cool. And then you mentioned even Sam and Eric talking under the metal awning with the heavy rain. Being able to talk under, and as I wrote that note, it says Sam and Eric, Lord of the Flies. I wonder if that was on purpose.
You never know. You never know. I liked it though, because in the thunder, like kicking her door in. Yeah. With the thunder and shouting and screaming because they needed to get it out. Sometimes you have to get it out.
Yeah. I almost expected it to not be her apartment after she has him kicking the door down, though. Like, there's this little moment where she's like, it's just some random place. I just need to go somewhere. But it was. Yeah. But
yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. But backtracking a second to, with the kids, they're credited with names. I don't have them. But this getting them kind of to safety, hiding out in the little subway tunnel, and then sending them with the other people, which I don't know how that ended, even right there, because obviously that went not very well. Which that scene I enjoyed for the tension. There's this, you feel it building the same time that she does. And again, face acting, Lupita Nyong'o is incredible. She can do no wrong. I love her so much. But this just tension of her walking against the crowd of people and slowly realizing that their sheer numbers with the footsteps and sounds and wheels and everything, it's too much noise and she's in a bad spot. And you see, like, you can almost hear her thoughts as she's looking, her eyes darting around, being like, I don't need to be here right now. She's connecting those dots like, this is too much noise and I can't leave because there's too many people around me. She's closed in. It's almost this claustrophobic little moment. And then the monsters close in and leap and chaos. And it was very
because you're making too much noise. It's even though every single person was making the tiniest amount of noise, if you compile it and amplify and multiply, it's too much. The wheels and the little suitcase, and it's just like, oh man, this is too much.
And then during all that chaos, this "please help me" guy under the car, what a dipshit! What were you doing? Leave her alone.
Please help you. Why didn't you just crawl under the car with her? Like, why are you trying to pull her out or pull at her to help you? Do you really believe that this very small woman is going to be able to pull you under the car with her?
Right.
Like this.
She'll go out there and fight the thing away.
No. You know what? Maybe with a lighter and some hairspray. That is old school, and it used to solve everything.
We talk about the apartment, which I've got more notes on that are more Eric centric. We'll get to him. Yeah. But then, after that night, you said having that frustration and being able to scream and just getting that out, which was important to them. And then we see the next morning, she's feeling and looking pretty rough, and you can tell like she's going to need her meds soon. Of course, before that, goddammit, jump scare that I forgot about that one, and it got me again. I'm pretty sure it got me in the theater, and it did it again to me.
Was it about water?
Her like little dream vision thing. No, where like the next morning, it's like it's daytime out the window, and she's like staring out the window, and then bah, monster, and then like she actually wakes up, and it's still kind of dark outside.
Oh man, okay, that's not the one that got me. What got me was Eric coming out of the water.
Really?
I was not ready for that. I'm like, what? It got me again. Oh
so
my gosh.
here's our basis is me going, alien monster that murders people, and you going, British guy. So got it.
I'm a fan.
Wet
of
British man. What's scarier than that?
Oh man. I can't even. I can't. I just can't.
But yeah, she's in rough shape. So it's a really good thing that Eric is so persistent in sticking with her, even after she leaves him sleeping in the apartment that morning.
He's incredibly persistent.
He is.
I mean,
he's
how many
lost puppy at first.
She's not just giving him subtle hints; she's telling him to go, like
go away, and he's like, okay, but no,
no.
Which there's reasoning behind that, and I'll talk about it.
Yeah,
when we get to him, but yeah, they're out and about, and of course, just little things, the books falling over, and then it's like, and here we go again.
Yep.
Which I had a note when they're trying to get into that, I guess like a bank, some kind of business building. We need more rotating doors in horror, because they definitely add some serious tension and fear whenever I see them used.
They also add
one scene in one show in particular that I'm sure most people, if they've seen it, goes straight to.
Yes. And what was the name of that? Poor Noah. That's all I'm going to say. Man. No. Don't need to see that. That was quite something. Yeah,
but just running through that building with all the glass ceilings, walls, and
that reminded me for some reason of the Tomorrow War. Really? The way that the creatures were climbing,
just dropping
down.
in.
Yeah. It just gave me I'm like, oh wow, this reminds me of their initial when they first go into when he first goes to his first location.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, is
nice.
Everything dropping in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then going down into the subway tunnel, you get more just dark subway tunnels full of murderous monsters. Another trope that is always effective when it's used.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a couple times. Even I think this season, we started, 28 weeks? And I was talking about dark subway tunnel. Makes me think of Cloverfield.
Yeah.
And
it all connects.
Yeah, so even here, I'm like, it's still effective.
Yep. Claustrophobic. That's what it did to me, is I felt very claustrophobic. The more the deeper they go, the worse it is. And I'm just like, no, on so many levels.
Uh-huh. And then them going through the water that gets deeper and deeper until it floods up the tunnel, which then Eric is having just a panic attack. And I'm like, what happens when a terminal cancer patient and a Brit with severe anxiety disorder attempt to survive an alien apocalypse? Find out in A Quiet Place, day 1. Yeah.
How did they... I want to know, and I haven't been able to find out what they did with the cat. How this all... Because I have to tell you, that they did not CGI the cat. There's no CGI. He wanted a real cat. And so they hired these 2 cats, and I say hired, because they got paid. This was a job for them. They did get paid. Yeah. They played, there were 2 cats, Nico and Schnitzel were the name of the cats that did it. He wanted a real cat, and that's what he got. At first, I'm like, okay, they're pulling it along. Okay, yeah, a cat might do that. But I'm thinking, oh my, under the water? Really?
These cats were great. Of course, I don't think we ever really see the cat under the water. It's kind of they go under, and then there's the and then they come up the other side, and the cat's sitting up on the rocks. I was waiting for you guys to show up. I don't know how the cat survives that underwater tunnel of running water at all. It's not going to happen. But again, I'm glad that he does. There's a lot of things. I'm like, I have a very hard time believing this cat goes this whole movie without meowing at all. But I'm glad it does.
The thing is, cats, when they're alone, even though this cat really wasn't alone, but cats, when they're more on their own, don't meow as much. They just don't. That doesn't apply to my cats at my house. They meow a lot, especially when it's dinner time. But they crawled out and into this church, and you know what that reminded me of the Demogorgon, like tunnel thing that they have in Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
He comes out of this thing, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that looks like that. It's like they're rising out of, like, I don't know. It's like they're being born out of where they were.
Yeah. But yeah, they're in this place, and then, yeah, Sam is just in really, really bad shape at this point. Which, again, good that she keeps Eric around, because he finally, like, faces this... I mean, we'll talk about him more as a character, but it's clear, like, he's definitely an anxiety disorder case. Like, I'm sure he has got anxiety medication that he should be on and is not. You know, like, he's...
Well,
here's
here's the thing about Eric. There's a deleted scene.
Mm-hmm.
Sam asked Eric why he was wearing a suit and tie when the attack hit. And he reveals he had come to New York to be, quote, accepted, which he wasn't by neither his father nor the small town he came from, but that he still felt lonely, heavily implying that he is a gay man and he was about to commit suicide. And Michael Sarnoski confirmed in an interview that the character of Eric is gay.
Okay.
And we didn't see that, and I wish we had.
Right.
Like, I feel like it just adds another dimension to him.
Because for me, what I see in him is like, oh, he's just somebody who's suffering from, like, severe, which the depression and stuff, like, severe anxiety disorder, and his trauma, like, the way he deals with that is by attachment, and Sam is the first person he saw while in that mode, and so he just, like, and he even says, because she's like, you need to go to the South Harbor, you need to go this way, get away from me, and he's like, okay, but then he can't do it, and then when she's like, why are you still not leaving, and the only thing he can say is, I'm scared, and she realizes, like, this attachment with him and, like, what he's going through, and so she brings him along, and so that's what I see with him, and I mean, it still kind of adds up that he's just in this place where he's just alone in his own head, he's just grasping onto anything that he can find, and it just happens to be Sam.
Yeah, because he wants to be accepted. I think that's part of it. I think he wants... He hasn't had it in his life, and no wonder he's got an anxiety disorder if this is the life that he had. I wish we had heard that, because I just think it helps. Like, it adds to the story. It doesn't take away from it. It helps explain a little bit of the anxiety.
Yeah.
And I would like to have seen that. I liked him as a character, but we'll talk about him when we're done with Sam.
Yeah. So, kind of to wrap up a little bit with her, like, really this whole journey for her. Again, it's about pizza. No, more than that. It's about memory. It's about her father. Clearly, her father was her rock. The person that she loved more than anything, who was just like, attached at the hip. This was her person. That was life. Everything revolved around him. And then he died seemingly of the exact same thing, also of a terminal illness, cancer, some kind of thing. And yet still, as she's kind of nearing the end of her life, what she focuses on are memories. The good times, and what those are, her favorite memories, the things she clings to are going to watch him play piano at the jazz club, and then going to Patsy's and getting pizza afterwards. Like, that's the core memory that she is holding on to. And so now that she's dying just like he did, it's like this last thing she wants to do. She's like, if I have any ounce of energy and freedom in this life to make one more decision and do something for me, I just need that pizza one more time. Let me end my journey in the happiest place imaginable for one more time. And that's really the root of this journey. It's, on paper. And she fights against hell for pizza. But there's a lot more emotionally connected to it, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I liked that it tied into the nostalgia. It wasn't just about the pizza. It was about the memories and what the pizza represented. Because she didn't have her father. He wasn't physically there. The next best thing she could get was the pizza. Because that took her mentally and emotionally to the place of remembering those special times. It connected her in a way. Unfortunately, Patsy's looked like it had been firebombed.
Yeah. That place didn't fare so well. Which Patsy's Pizzeria in Harlem, very real, very historic place. And it is definitely locked away in my list of places to try to visit if I can.
Oh, yeah.
Saved. I've got on my Google Maps. I'm just constantly adding places that come up in movies and TV shows and podcasts and recommendations and stuff. So that's in there now. I'm like, if I'm ever in Harlem, I don't know when that'll ever happen, but who knows? Patsy's Pizzeria, which I went onto their Google Maps little page, the Google page for Patsy's, and was reading reviews. Of course, it's all great, wood fire pizzas, and it's a historic place, and everybody loves it. And one of my favorite reviews was I'm so glad we got to try it before the aliens destroyed it. Which is really great. And it's or because it gets too popular and too busy because of the movie. Yep. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's true, though. I mean, places like that they film at that are popular, that are real places, often get mobbed by fans.
Well, there's the beef kind of that in the show The Bear. Real place. Real restaurant that they shot that first season out of, that is a Italian beef sandwich shop. It's very ingrained in Chicago, and it's I want to go there, but since the popularity of The Bear, that place has just become more and more popular and busy with lines wrapping around the building. And I've seen some stuff online of people going there to get a sandwich, and the cast of The Bear is there just to go pick up sandwiches and stuff around times they're filming. They're very ingrained, and they are very close to it. And so it's that's great.
That is awesome. So she ends up not being able to she's devastated that Patsy's is not it's out of the question. So the next best thing is they went to the bar that her father used to play at. Which also brings and connects her, the everything.
Yeah. It's I have so many things to say about all that, but it's all filed under Eric, and I'm just kind of waiting. This is definitely the moment of the movie he shines the most for me. We'll get there. Yeah. But yeah, after all of that, they're kind of finished up with their time there, and then just happenstance, luckily, what a coincidence, the boat that they're trying to get to has kind of swung around to the other side, because they're telling people, go south, go south, go south for the boats. And yet Harlem, quite north of New York.
Yeah.
And the boat has kind of the Hudson goes around. It's fine. And so the boat has kind of circled back up around. And so it's go time. It's we've got to go, but you can kind of see, especially on second watch, because how it ends, know how everything goes, but you really can see it again in just her body language. And Sam knows that she doesn't have the strength to make it to that boat. She's not swimming. She's not running. She's
it's not going to happen.
No. And she'd rather go out on her own terms. So she gives Eric her sweater, and then later when they get down there, even her cat, and just make sure that he has the open chance to get to that water. Give that opening to him. She gets to let out some rage on some cars with a crowbar, give him just moments that he needs to just make it into the water past the monster's grasp, and to get away to safety. We'll talk about him a little bit more. But and then kind of her there at the end, she goes back to the jazz club, and she's looking at the photo. The sweater that she gave to Eric was her dad's that she was wearing. I think I missed that on my first watch in the theater, and so
I remembered it. I saw it. I remember seeing the photo at the end and realizing it. So I remembered it through this time. The whole time I'm thinking, she's going to give her dad's sweater to, oh my God, and it just hits you, I think, differently when you realize what it is and what it represents. When she has his coat and he has her sweater, you can just see the transition that's coming.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say too much because I'm going to talk about some stuff when we talk about Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, leaves him with the sweater, and then she's looking at that photo. And then also we see with Eric on that Sam had slipped him that note in the pocket. Just, I don't have the whole thing written down, but the gist of it is, thank you for bringing me home and helping me feel alive one last time.
Yeah, I lost it today. I didn't cry at the theater, but today I did.
Uh-huh.
I did. I couldn't help it.
It's just wonderful music choice there at the end.
Nina Simone. Nina Simone. Nina Simone. I've heard Bublé's version of that song so many times. It was so beautiful to hear Nina Simone's.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to surmise what happened.
Oh, yeah.
She went out...
She's going out on her own terms.
Yeah, she went out on her own terms. And that, I think, is what she wanted to do all along. I think she looked at the hospice as not being able to go out on her own terms. Like, she's too regimented by the life there, and it took her away from what she really wanted. And this gave her the opportunity to do exactly what she wanted, which was to go out on her own terms with no one telling her what to do. Yeah. And she decided what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was great. So, Eric. Joseph
Eric.
Quinn. It's great to see Joseph Quinn. Getting to use his natural voice.
Yes.
Which is nice. He's a British actor. Because as I'm sure most people's first introduction to him was Stranger Things. So I love that he's getting some more really cool work after that. Of course, this movie. And then he's also confirmed to be joining the MCU soon as part of the Fantastic Four. He will be our new Johnny Storm / Human Torch.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting.
He's also, I believe, in Gladiator 2, which is the Ridley Scott movie that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
That we didn't know we wanted and didn't maybe think we needed.
We'll see.
So we'll see.
Also, he's in the movie Overlord, which I still have not seen yet to see. But I think we can cover it.
I think we can, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I want to. And then I was looking at the cast of that, and I was like, oh, he's in that with Wyatt Russell and Pilu Asbak and Jacob Anderson. Why the actual fuck have I not watched this movie yet?
I don't know, but I'm thinking it might get added to our list very soon.
Yeah, I think so.
I do think we're going to end up covering it.
Yeah.
This season, maybe. You know what? I haven't seen it either, and I remember wanting to go to the movies to see it. And I remember
keeping tabs on it very early because originally it was supposed to be a Cloverfield movie. That script was going to be adapted into a Cloverfield movie like 10 Cloverfield Lane was. And then they ended up not doing that and scrapping that idea and just letting it be its own thing and not tying it into the Cloverfield universe. And so just for whatever reason, I didn't get around to it after I knew it wasn't.
Yeah, I have no excuse. I just didn't end up going. And so, okay, let's plan on it. We're going to cover it.
Yes.
Soon. I mean, Jacob Anderson's in it too. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
But have we covered too much Wyatt Russell? No. I don't think that's a thing, right?
I think the only thing from him we've covered is, we did cover Night Swim recently, but still.
There's no rule against
Can't have too much Wyatt Russell.
No, you can't.
That's not a thing that can happen.
And
so it's okay.
There's no rule against covering movies with similar actors in a short period of time either.
No, of course not.
No. Plus, we make up our own rules, and exactly. I'm saying that we don't have a rule against it, so let's go for it.
Yes.
So, speaking of Eric, yes, I did jump when he jumped out of the water.
Wet British man. I
forgot it. I did not remember that it was going to happen like that. But it was a great place for him to hide. I mean, I figure he must have jumped in there when the attack was going on. The attack on the masses of people that were walking and rolling and shuffling to the boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've talked a lot about some of the big things on it. Of course, like him following Sam around like this lost puppy, and then she's telling him where to go, but he's too scared. It's not processing, and again, it's this trauma mode of attachment and his severe anxiety disorder, clearly, that I'm diagnosing him. With
yes.
On the outside, I'd be like, I mean, it feels pretty clear. And then especially with what you said about some of the deleted scenes and stuff about him, like it makes sense.
It does. It just, I wish that we had gotten that, like even a little bit of that to understand, because I think it adds to his character in a way that would have been helpful.
Yeah. We talked about getting to the apartment, which his initial response to her pizza plan was really great. It was very much like, oh, totally. That's not insane at all. Okay. No.
But he went all in with her. Like, over time, I felt like they just connected so well. And I love that it wasn't a romantic thing. That it was two people in a really tough situation that were bonding over their mutual trauma and supporting each other to get where they needed to be.
Yeah, it was great. And it said, at first, he's like, oh, no, I've connected with a crazy person. But then after that night where they, he's reading her poem and realizing kind of her situation and talking to her, and that bonding there that night, like, yeah, he's in it at that point. He's just like, I need to belong. This is something that makes me belong. You have something that means so much to you. So what better for me to do than to help you and make sure that you reach your goal?
Yes. I think he needed a quest. It isn't Dungeons and Dragons, but he needed a quest.
He did. And then, when they're in the church, again, Sam is just so rough and terrible shape, and he's trying to give her water, and then that's not working, and he steps out and faces that fear and anxiety, and he goes on his own. And then, Frodo kind of joins him.
Yes, he did.
But he goes out to get these meds that she needs to reach her pizza goal. And it's honestly a very beautiful thing. And he's a hero. He gets that fentanyl patch so she can rest up and feel a little bit better for that saucy road ahead. They're gonna get there. Yeah.
He was just so endearing. His character was so endearing. Because he didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah, he barely knows Sam, but he's gonna stick it through and help her reach her goal because he cares. He genuinely cares.
Yeah. And I think even though she kept telling him to go away and to do, go there, don't be here, you need to leave me alone. Sometimes you can push people away like that. You can keep trying to push them away. And then you're stuck sitting there wondering, they don't leave, even though you're trying to push them away. And I think sometimes people will push others away because they're trying to protect themselves. And I think the ones who stay and don't run away, you're almost, I think, in awe of them because you know that they really care about you because they're not running away. They're still there the next day and the day after, or help you get on a pizza quest. Like, they're the ones that are going to help you. And I think it's kind of amazing when you realize that. And I think for her, she would not have made it on this journey.
Yeah.
And I hate to think of what would have happened with Frodo. Like, she would have probably passed away, and at least this time, he's going to get a good life with
Frodo Does Manhattan.
Yep.
It's just him in the city, just rolling around.
It's funny because the director, he had this idea. He thought that he looked at what Frodo's life probably was, and he thought about, well, you know what? Frodo probably was a stray cat that she started feeding, and he wouldn't leave, and he stayed around, and that was the story that he created in his head about what the backstory was for Frodo. And it just goes to show, like, she does gravitate towards the creatures or the people that don't leave. She will give in to you and be, allow you in her life. But you have to be persistent, and that is exactly what he was.
Yeah.
She kept telling him to leave. He just wouldn't listen.
We talked about Patsy's. Yeah, huge bust. Place is destroyed. And Sam is just, deeply sad at that. And again, with Eric that we've come to see here knows, just to comfort her. And there was something oddly beautiful about him just sitting and hugging her in front of a flaming manhole, which I could ruin that sentiment with a joke regarding the term flaming manhole, but I will refrain because listeners can do that on their own.
And you've done it anyway. You don't have to tell the joke when you go around. You, in a roundabout way, you told the joke.
Did I? I would never.
You did. And yes, you would.
but Eric does have a backup plan that is just as meaningful, and it's just the way he just asks a simple question: "Where did your dad play piano?" Like he knows. It's like, we can salvage something here. So he brings her to that jazz bar, and then he goes and gets pizza. It's cheapo 99-cent pizza from around the corner, but a Sharpie and some imagination can fix that.
It's the thought that counts.
Yeah. And then his silent performance with Sam on stage was amazing. And the only thing I can think that whole scene is like, what a beautiful human soul that Eric is.
Yeah. I mean, I teared up during that because all I could think is he does not really know her. And yet he's given so much of himself to get her to where she wanted to go on this quest.
Yeah. How
incredible of a person he is. And goddamn his family for not realizing it and accepting him for who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the end I have of him. I have one other note for others, which is more a Henry thing, but I'll tie it in because I've covered all those already, which is, at the end, of course, he makes that jump into the water, swims up to the boat and gets on there. And kind of a big takeaway for me there is that Henry and his son are there on the boat. Again, don't know what happened to Xena, his wife. You can assume what happened exactly, but Ashar at the end of the movie, his son, is... I thought it was just a perfect, little full circle where we see him holding and snuggling the same cat that he liked and was petting in the theater, that the woman behind him was holding. I think that was just very, very cute. But then, let's not be a buzzkill and burst people's bubbles, but it's kind of what we're doing here. The assumptions here of, with them being on this boat, we know then that this boat contains the people that end up being the people on the island with the radio station in A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yes.
Because we know that's where Henry ends up. Which, again, means, not to be a buzzkill, that we can also assume that Eric and Frodo were on that island when the monster took a little boat ride over there and wreaked havoc on the citizens of said island. Hopefully they were okay. We don't know, but they were there at that time, I'm assuming.
Yes. Agreed. We know he at least survived for a while.
Yeah.
We don't know anything outside of that, which is sad. But maybe we'll find out. It will depend on if John Krasinski wants to drive us in that direction.
Wouldn't that be cool if, the Quiet Place, Part 3 kind of thing has, we return to the Abbott stuff, and then there's a connection with the island. Because there were survivors on the island.
Yeah.
And then we get Joseph Quinn reprising the role of Eric in that movie. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Let's do it. Yes. Krasinski, do it. Bring back Nico and Schnitzel.
Yes. They're ready to come back. Oh, can we talk about Frodo? Can we please talk about Frodo? Frodo was his own character. He really was his own character.
Oh, absolutely. I've talked about most of my notes with him, but yeah.
Peg, he got his own slice of pizza.
He did.
Okay, that's what Dante would do. Dante would do that. He totally would. He's an alley cat at heart.
Yeah, just a good kitty. Again, I have a hard time believing a lot of his survival things, but you know what? I'm glad that he did. He's a good kitty. Stumbles upon a soaking wet Eddie Munson, Eric. Brings him back to Sam. He can always find his person.
Yes. I appreciated so much the cats acting, because That cat had facial expressions. It did at different points.
Yep.
And I loved it.
Yeah. So I have a quote from the cats that played Frodo here. It says, "So we're actually the star of this movie, and we need to be in as many scenes as possible. Thank you."
Yes, and I may say, I don't know. Eric and Frodo could be on my end of season list. I mean...
Yeah, so Frodo is a mostly very good cat.
Yes.
And I say mostly because there's also the time that he leads Eric into a construction zone that's also seemingly an impact zone / nest for the alien monsters. So that was kind of shitty to do. But
what was that about?
Don't know. It's like, I know a good way to go home. No.
No.
I'm going to go sit up here on this beam and make sure you have a super up close and personal close call with one of these things.
Oh, man. No.
Was Frodo evil the whole time? Was he trying to get Eric killed?
No. No, Frodo wouldn't do that.
Never. I mean, he is a cat. There's a little bit of evil in him always.
Yes. They're very independent, these cats. Mm-hmm. Even if he was a service kitty. Like, they're very independent.
And a little evil. Always a little evil.
I don't know about evil.
Just a little. Or at least a little.
Only in the best possible way.
Yeah, it manifests in different ways with different cats, but there's always a little.
Yeah. My friend Amy has a cat named Norma, and that cat might be a lot evil. Judging by the scratches on Amy's hand every week, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Frodo was really special. I love that Sarnoski stuck to his guns and did this with cats and not with CGI. Mm-hmm. Because it would have taken you completely out of the movie if it was absolutely. CGI. And the interesting thing, though, in Egyptian mythology, cats are guides to the underworld or afterlife.
Yeah.
Which can also explain why Frodo was so calm in the face of the madness that was going on. Mm-hmm. Because he was relying on ancestral DNA. Passed on for generations.
I think that's it, other than just some like notes on the creatures, the monsters, the aliens, whatever they are.
Yes. I like that we got to see one of them drowning underwater. I thought that was cool. The onion faces. I guess they're really called death angels. Like, that's what... I had never...
I've never heard that term. But
no. But as soon as I was, like, Googling and looking into things, they're credited as death angels on so many different wikis.
I don't know if that's a Krasinski-ism or not.
I don't know, but all they are onion faces to me, so I just called them onion heads or whatever. But we did get to see when they were down in the sewer, that one that died by drowning.
Yeah, that one that he was like, this is my hidey hole. I was like, why is there a monster in a ceiling hidey hole? Mm-hmm. Just to be very scary and have him creepily crawl out and into the water after the main characters. But it's a good thing they do drown so dang fast.
Yeah, they're not loving the water. It's not happening.
The most buoyant of creatures.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, it was cool again to see, especially this close up, the impact, the moment life on Earth changed forever.
Yes.
It's just quite scary. The meteors falling from the sky, colliding, and then immediately the monsters are at it in full force.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who makes a sound is just yoinked away into dust and ash. Yeah.
The dust and ash, the whole thing with that is when I really noticed Lupita Nyong'o's like facial and body acting. Mm-hmm. Because you could feel the tension, the fear, the terror in what she was portraying. She didn't even have to say anything. One of the reasons that she loved doing this film, too, is that she got to learn how to tell, or she got to share how to tell the story without words. Like physical acting versus, just like...
Which we already know she's so incredible with
she is.
Physical acting and face acting. I mean, we covered Us. Like...
We did?
Yeah.
We did.
We know what she's capable of, for sure.
Yeah.
This was the most detail we've seen on these monsters, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still incredibly creepy. We see early on in the theater when one of them is like pawing kind of at a dead body in front of Ruben. They have like the little front plates on their onion face, you said, that are being used as like little spider jaws, or chelicerae, if you're fancy the term for those. But like they're just tapping, like they're just like the little jaws on a spider, and then their legs, we get like the like Jurassic Park raptors in the kitchen kind of moment of following their feet walking, and it's like their legs are somehow both spider-like and hoof-like at the same time, and it's real scary.
Yeah. So we did get a little bit more of the creatures as far as that type of thing, but
visual, yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't like learn anything. But again, we knew more about the creatures than any of the people in this film because we'd seen 2 movies about them.
Yeah.
So, but there was no like discovery of things, I guess, maybe. Maybe you were expecting that. Maybe that's what you wanted, was more of like the discovery of what they were like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just little reminders of things that we did know, but it was good to see back. Xena, Henry's wife, is on the radio listening with her headphones, writing down just the information that people are saying. It's marking stuff on the globe. It is global. Mm-hmm. She's kind of getting that. She marks, and writes down to stay off the bridges, and we see that pretty soon after that. They blowing all the bridges as they're trying to contain this threat, because remember, they can't swim. They figured that out pretty quick somehow. So
yeah, tried
to contain them. Obviously, it did not work in any way, but you try. But I guess it does work in some instances. Again, spoilers for Quiet Place Part 2. I don't know who's seen this movie and not the first 2. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, we know that, Henry, the people on the boat at the end of the movie, that island that they're on, they live there without any worry about these monsters for years. So
yeah, it's true.
I mean, they're having like a normal neighborhood, like parties and picnics and loud music playing, and like it's pretty much life as usual, other than they're still kind of in this apocalyptic, we got to store and grow our own food and kind of stuff. They can't go to stores. Like, it's not like civilian life, but they're self-sustained and contained and living out there on that island for years without any instance. So like it does work to some degree. If you can get to an island, then you're pretty golden.
That's usually the thing when you think about movies or different things when it comes to like different types of apocalypse films that we've talked about. Getting to an island seems to be something that has been mentioned, but not always explored. And this film series gave us a glimpse into seeing what it would be like.
And then just seeing the amount of these creatures swarming the city, especially after the helicopters are like flying by and giving announcements and orders and sirens and kind of almost like herding them from place to place in the city so that people can move. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, because the helicopters, it was the safest way to do it, really. Mm-hmm. I guess originally they were going to have the announcements done in multiple languages, like they had recorded multiple languages, but they didn't. I don't know I didn't notice if they actually went through with it.
I don't think so. Get slight complaint, but barely. I think they flew a little loose on what sounds attracted the monsters versus the ones that didn't. It's not a huge deal. The story still holds itself well regardless, but there's a lot of, because I even think like when Eric pops out of the water, like, what are you doing?
Like, you have got, and she like calms him.
And just a lot of the like packing things in bags and taking things out and the writing on the Sharpie. It's like, I feel like a lot of those sounds, it's like, in the first Quiet Place movie, you couldn't be doing those things. You couldn't be
doing that. Because you had to walk on sand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
But there's also a lot more, even without the people, so much ambient sound in New York that, like, there's probably a certain level of decibels that, like, cover certain things. Yeah. So it's a little easier.
Yeah. Living in New York during this type of apocalypse, I would just be thinking, can it rain tomorrow? We need some rain. We need some rain. Just so that you can actually talk and exist. Otherwise, your life is doing nothing. I mean, you're just quiet all the time. So,
and that's it. Other than when they first go down into that subway tunnel that leads to the water and stuff, is I just have a note of, that's a big old no-no crawling down the subway stairs. And that's what...
Oh, God. That's a really bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I almost had a reference to that with the lady out in the street going, Jonathan! And it's
my God.
That's
a really bad idea.
She's gone.
She's gone. It's too late. The thing is, you couldn't respond to these things. Like, it was so fast. It was almost like, oh, look. And they're already gone before you can even think about it. I think we did it.
Nice.
I think we've done a good job with this one. I was looking so forward to doing this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. And honestly, despite even like my spiel, which I wanted to get that out of the way at the top so I could be like, here's some thoughts, but then definitely, as I knew would happen, after talking about it and breaking it down, I'm even less worried about that stuff. Like, I definitely enjoy it even more, that much more after talking about it.
It usually happens.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time. I remember going all the way back to when we covered The Ritual. I was like, I don't really... oh, God. I didn't really like it, but we'll cover it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I wasn't even coming into this going like, I didn't really like it. Like,
no.
Like I said, it was fine. It was enjoyable. But now, after breaking down some of those like really like character arcs and emotions and reasons and purposes, and I do appreciate it a lot more. Now, with that said, I'm still going to say the first two are better.
Oh, yeah.
I still think overall, but this is a very solid entrant into this, an installment into this franchise and story for sure. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what comes next.
Absolutely. And we'll cover it eventually when it happens. I mean, I remember that's how long I've been doing this is when we covered the first Quiet Place movie, the second one wasn't even out yet.
No.
So, like, we've...
You know what, Peg, it's funny you should say that because this week is our 4th anniversary of Run for Your Lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been doing Run for Your Lives for 4 years.
That's dope.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Oh,
there
goes
boy.
The feedback phone.
It is time to shut up and time to listen.
See what they got to say. The feedback phone. All right, we do have some feedback this week. We've got a good little bit, which is awesome. Love that. We've got multiple feedback pieces to go through, which, yeah, it's a quiet place, so that way it makes sense. It's a bigger one that we've done in a little bit. We've kind of been pulling at some of the older nicher, is that a word? I don't know, it is now. Movies and doing stuff, but yeah, it's a quiet place, so I love that we got a little bit more people coming through, so let's get to them. Daphne, why don't you kick it off?
All right, so I'm gonna send this one. I enjoyed this movie. It really kept me on the edge of my seat. Was I the only one amazed at how quiet the cat was? LOL, I mean, my cat is a talker, so I just know we would be toast in this universe. Yeah, that's how I feel too. My cats would just be too loud. They didn't really acknowledge it in the movie, but those of us that are fans liked the connection to the second movie. I remember watching the second movie and wondering how people got to that island and where they had come from. This movie answered that question. I can't wait to hear how y'all liked it.
Yeah. Thanks. Then we have Sam writing in. Hey, Sam. Says, one of my favorite franchises. I really enjoyed the exploration of shock, trauma, grief, and guilt that the film brought out, at least for me. I read that Frodo was the embodiment of Sam's life, her joy, happiness, hope. And Frodo's bond with Eric means so much more to me now. His saving of Frodo shows that a part of Sam lives on. The cancer, the monsters, they don't win, and she never really dies. Beautiful acting and cinematography, and thank God the cat lives.
Yes. I think
that's a really good way to look at that, too. I hadn't really thought of it, but that's beautiful. Yeah.
That is. Sam, you have such a great way of putting things. We definitely appreciate you sending in feedback because that really does describe it so well. Catherine, hello Catherine, says, I didn't have high expectations for a prequel, but was surprised at how much I loved this. Seeing so many creatures swarm over the buildings was intense, and I really liked all of the close-ups, especially the creature's ear. I look forward to hearing more about the amazing cat actors in this week's episode. I attempted the day 1 TikTok challenge where you run with your cat and see if you'd survive the invasion. I didn't make it 3 feet with the 3-legged cat. 2 tolerated the running but failed an attempt to run up the stairs. While the last one passed everything, including jumping on the bed. He purred so loud that I think the creatures might hear him and attack.
That's fun. I'm not on TikTok much, so I'm not aware of the trend or the challenge, but that sounds really fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, who could I do that with? No. 3 of my cats are very vocal. So no, not gonna work.
And lastly, this week we have one from Mark, who says, I am yet to watch this one. That said, I will still listen. Well, thank you very much. And hopefully you have checked it out or will soon, because, yeah, it's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and if you do get to watch it, Mark, please feel free to send us feedback anytime.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to submit feedback like Alma, Sam, Catherine, or Mark, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you are enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We do indeed. Of course, speaking of sharing the love, got to give those shout outs to things going on in the Podcastica universe around us. Of course, Jason and Lucy continuing strong with their Walking Dead rewatch over on the Cast of Us with Season 3, Episode 9, The Suicide King, this week. So make sure you're checking that out if you're rewatching along with them or want to check that out. Also, the Cast of the Rings over on Amazon Prime, which is the Rings of Power. That's what I meant to say, over on Amazon Prime, with the Cast of the Rings being the podcast covering that, with Penny and Anwen getting back together for that. I think the first episode, is it out now? Like this weekend? Or is it over this next week? I think it is, yeah.
It's out now.
Because I know they've recorded on it, and it should be up in the next couple of days soon. So definitely check that out. But also, if you want a little recap and things before that, they do have an episode that was up over earlier this week, where they're looking ahead, looking behind, getting excited for Season 2, kind of recapping and talking about some of the stuff that they enjoyed and that they were looking forward to in this upcoming season. So if you want to kind of get re-caught up on Rings of Power and get yourself stoked for this new season that just dropped, definitely check out their episode there, and then continue listening on as their weekly coverage and so forth continues on that. Be exciting. Big Lord of the Rings fan, definitely check that one out. And then Penny and Greg getting together with Season 2, Episode 8 of Extraordinary with, well, Goodbye Forever, the name of that one. I don't think they're shutting down the podcast forever. Who knows? But yeah, so if you're checking out Extraordinary over on Hulu and Disney Plus and those areas, then definitely check out Penny and Greg. Those two are so much fun together. So
yeah, it's
always a good time. So check that out as well. And then if you're a fan of The Bear, like any smart person should be, come on, get with it. Such a great show. Lucy and Peter with the Let It Rip Bear podcast have been crushing it. And of course, this week they finished Season 3, the last 2 episodes of this current season. They dropped that episode, which was awesome. And then again, I really love that like they've had like cooking segments and food conversation segments and stuff at the end of the episodes, which is really cool. So without giving too much away, though, there was a really awesome celebrity or, influential chef that was on one of these final episodes that had a whole scene while trussing and roasting a chicken, and they took his advice and went with it and tried to do some roast chicken this week on there, and just have to see how that turned out and how they did with that. Deboning and roasting and trussing and all of the fun stuff.
Oh man, I think I'll leave that to Lucy and Peter. They can have at it and let me know how it goes.
Yeah. So that was great to listen to. And of course, their coverage of the episodes and characters and arcs and all those things are incredible as well, because besides being great foodie people, they are also just great television commentators and stuff as well. obviously, they're part of Podcastica. I think we all do pretty great. I would hope. So definitely check that out as well. And then lastly, outside of Podcastica, always giving some love to some other friends out there. We always share our love with TV Podcast Industries. Doing great, and they are in the final season of Umbrella Academy that's out on Netflix now. They're going to be taking kind of a weekly jump at that as they wrap up those last 6 episodes that came out for that season. So they've been doing great with that. I know me and Rima on Strange Indeed covered Umbrella Academy's first 2, or at least I did season 2 with her. And yeah, we had fun, and a lot of people were kind of asking, are you guys going to do more Umbrella Academy? And we're talking about it. We might do something with it at some point. I don't know. But if you want that coverage of Umbrella Academy, go check out TV Podcast Industries, because Derek and John are doing an incredible job over there with that. So definitely give them some love and check them out. And then if for whatever reason you are crazy enough to want more of me and Daphne every week, so we team up with our good friends Jeff and Jerry, you can always check out the Buffalo podcast. We're just goofing off, being crazy, driving Daphne wild, in the worst ways, just dismantling her mental everything 1 week at a time.
Oh, but I am still there. I am still putting myself through it every week.
Yeah, so we're having a blast over there and laughing. It's been great. So yeah, go check out Buffalo. And let us know if anybody is listening to that and has been checking it out. You'll even leave feedback over here too, and let us know what you think and how.
Yeah, we definitely would love to know who's listening. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, but aside from all of that, of course, you can come back right here to this podcast next week, where we have a fresh, hot new episode for you. What are we doing next week, Daphne?
Well, when a group of American paratroopers discover a Nazi-occupied village is harboring horrifying and secret experiments, they soon learn their fight to survive may be more terrifying than the war itself. We are covering the 2018 film Overlord. It's directed by Julius Avery, and it stars Jovan Adepo, Wyatt Russell, and Palau Ezbek.
So that'll be a fun one. I think it's the first time watching that one for both of us, so.
Yeah, it was. And we got inspired because we wanted more Wyatt Russell.
And Joseph Quinn, as we talked about on this.
And Joseph Quinn.
Yeah. As we were listening to this episode, we were like, we should cover that. And then now we get to the feedback. It's like, oh, by the way, we're covering that next week.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going for it.
We had to do it. But with that, we've reached the end of our episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.